Hey guys, welcome back to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with a patch notes breakdown for patch 5.2b. Now we haven't been doing this one for quite a little bit of time, simply because a lot of the times the day the patch releases, I don't really have time to record a video, and I don't really think there is a lot of logic in recording the video the next day or the day after, because by then pretty much everybody would have read the patch notes and things like that already. But yeah, you can see this is just posted 6 hours ago, so that's when I'm recording this video, before the patch even releases. But yeah, so another thing is I also just released a tier list like 1 or 2 days ago. I think that after looking through the patch notes, that tier list is still more or less relevant. Only maybe 3 or 4 champions might shift around the tier list a little bit. We'll take a look at the changes that they got a little bit later on, but let's jump straight into it. So first up, we're gonna have Mordekaiser as a new champion coming out in a week's time on August 23rd. He is a top laner who is very good at 1v1s by ulting people into the death realm and forcing them to 1v1 them. A lot of creative use situations for that ult. So we'll have to see how people play him and how strong he is when he comes out. But knowing Riot, probably is going to be pretty strong. Also, there's going to be a Mordekaiser event. I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm getting inundated by Wild Rift events. I think we have like 3 concurrent events at one point in time. The Crystal Rose one, the Hex Rift one, and like now there's that leaderboard event. But yeah, there's going to be another event on August 23rd. So champion changes, not too many, but quite a number of impactful changes. So first up, Ahri is getting a buff. I do agree Ahri is not in the best spot right now. Small buff should be pretty good. So her base damages on the normal damage and the true damage, which is on the return, goes up by just a little bit, just a touch, and the AP ratio also just a touch with 5%. I think that's a pretty good buff for Ahri's main damage tool. And the W cooldown is getting reduced by 1 second, not too impactful. However, the damage gets the same treatment, 5 more base damage and 5% more AP. So these 2 buffs together, I think, will put Ahri in a better spot. I do think Ahri probably moves up the tier list a little bit. Now, whereas with Lissandra, we know that she is kind of the best mid laner at the moment. So what changes have she got? Well, first up, her Q has 5% less AP, which again, I think is a good nerf in the correct direction, but I don't think it's going to affect too much. And her Ring of Frost, which is the root, her W, the base damage is going down in all ranks actually, and the 5% ability power is getting removed. So basically a little bit like the opposite of Ahri, but overall I think she is still gonna be the best mid laner even with these 2 nerfs. I still think that she's gonna be doing more than enough damage and probably still gonna be really good. Now Camille is getting a huge round of buffs. So first up, the empowered precision protocol, which is basically the one where she does a backflip and does like true damage. I believe, she does have 2 parts of it. The first one is the normal kick, and then the second one is the true damage. But the AD ratio is going up by 10%, which is quite a lot, especially when you reach the later stages of the game. And her W is also getting a pretty big buff. The mana is going to be 50 at all ranks, and the damage is going up by 10 in terms of the base damage, and the mana, health regen on the people hit by the other half is going up from 40% to 50%. So overall, less mana, more damage, and more health regen. So pretty big buff to Camille. I do think Camille is already pretty strong. You guys saw my tier list. I put it as like 2nd tier because I do think split pushers are pretty strong right now. But she definitely is not the strongest. I think Fiora is probably a little bit better than Camille in terms of split pushers. And Camille also isn't very popular at the moment. So I think this is a okay change to Camille, okay buff. Jhin, on the other hand, is making getting a pretty big buff, and you guys can definitely expect me playing Jhin in the upcoming days and weeks, and probably gonna have a Jhin video for you guys real soon. So first up is his passive. So the bonus AD that he gets, in case you guys didn't know, Jhin does get bonus AD scaling off of his attack speed, his crit rate, and his level. So they did once buff this part, the attack speed boosted by crit rate thing, from 0.3 to 0.5, and Jhin became really strong, and they nerfed it back down to 0.4, and now they're buffing it back up to 0.55. So this kind of seems insane, but anyways, here we are gonna get so basically how this attack speed boosted by crit rate works is he has 15% and then 0.55% for every 1% bonus attack speed, and then this attack speed is going to get converted into attack damage using this conversion at the top. So it's going to go from 25% bonus attack speed to 30% bonus attack speed, and then 40% crit rate to 45% of crit rate. So overall, this is a huge buff to Jin's damage. This is probably going to make Jin insane. I wouldn't be surprised if Jin becomes one of the top ADCs, but at the same time, I also won't be surprised if he doesn't. So I think it's more likely than not that Jin's going to move up the ADC tier list by a large margin, but we'll have to see after playing. Furthermore, his ult also gets a pretty huge buff. Like the damage on his current call, 50 to 75 is kind of huge in the early ranks, and the attack damage ratio stays the same because it's 25 extra damage per rank, but at the lowest rank, 50 to 75 is pretty huge. So Sivir, as you guys know from my tier list, one of the worst ADCs you can play right now. AD per level is going up from 3 to 3.5, so overall this gives her extra like 7 AD at like the top rank, the level 15. Not irrelevant, but not very impactful as well. Ricochet, which is the W, her main damage source. Base damage remains the same, however the AD ratio is going up by a couple of percentage points at each rank. At the highest rank it's 5 extra percent, so that is definitely going to make a difference. You guys will see me doing a Sivir updated complete guide really soon, because I already have the gameplay for it from the previous patch, of course, but we will be using that gameplay, and it should be only even better in the latest patch. So Rakan, I think this changes a little bit iffy, because basically Rakan, his W, which is the one that he jumps in and knocks people up, cooldown's going down by quite a bit. So on rank 1 it's 18 to 15, and this is the ability you 18 to 16 is the ability you max first, and at max rank it's 15 seconds, 11.5 seconds. Now the shield, which is the one that he dashes and shields someone, cooldown is also going down by 2 seconds at all ranks. So I think this one's yes, Rakan does have very long cooldowns, but I do think that Rakan is already a pretty good support, and I think giving him shorter cooldowns is going to make him really strong, especially because this is not the 1 second cooldown buff kind of thing. This is like a couple of seconds, so this should make Rakan quite a bit better, and again, it doesn't affect his damages or anything, and he does decent amounts of damage, and good amount of damage if you're building AP. Yeah, so we'll have to see how this affects Rakan, but I think this is going to make Rakan way better. So you can see, as I said, most of the champion changes here are pretty effective. So ARAM changes, I'm just going to scroll through, and you guys can take a look at the changes for yourself. And now the gameplay changes. So IE, we all know, has been a pretty trash item. It is getting a straight up buff, but the buff is basically AD going from 55 to 60. Now, I don't really think this is going to matter all that much. Now, I say I don't think because there have been times where a champion gets like a 580 buff or nerf, and it actually makes a difference because it's base stats. So on IE, I don't really see it making that much of a difference, because you're going to get it like second, third, or even fourth item. And by then, that 580 is not very relevant anymore. It's not like a base stat of a champion. It's like the base stat of a second or third item. So I don't really see this 580 making any difference at all. I still think IE shouldn't really be built if you can help it, if you have better options. So yeah, I think IE is still trash. So T-Hex Mecha, now instead of taking 10 seconds for it to activate, now by activate, I mean, I think what they mean is the mecha has to be transported to your base, then you have to put down the dinosaur, and then it takes like a second or two to prime, and then when you stand there, you need a channel to go into the actual T-Hex, which basically makes it have a huge delay. Because imagine if your whole team recalls and your whole team steps out of base, you're still trying to get into the mecha. But basically now it's going to take from 10 seconds to 7 seconds, so a little bit better, and it has a longer home guard duration after activation. So basically, you should still be behind your teammates, but you should be able to catch up to your teammates eventually. So we have new skins: Old Guard Mordekaiser, Coven Morgana, and Coven Neela. And that's pretty much it. So thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.